hi, look at me. I'm a real person. I have things that I have to do. I'm moving out of this fucking apartment, so I don't really have time to sit down and do a proper video. That's why you got the guest video yesterday. And today, I'm giving you the results of a collaboration from Sinatra Says, which is essentially for this channel better than Buzzfeed 2. It's pretty long, so if you want, maybe just skip to my bits. I'm somewhere near the end. You'll see it. The green sheet's up and all that. Very, very good. Much better than any of the other responses. But if you want to give these guys, give them a little something. Give them a sub. I don't really care. It's not my business what you do. But I'm in this, so it's not all bad.
Alright, so I found this old video called Reasonable Questions for Anti-SJWs. And boy, oh boy, it's just as cringy as you think it's gonna be. And if any of you guys happen to see this video, Michael Rowlands, I'm talking specifically to you right now, please, please, for the love of God, please shave your fucking mustache. Alright, let's just get right into the video, shall we? Also, I want you guys to downvote this video and be super mean in the comments, since that's what everyone's got their panties up in a bunch about right now.
Are you able to understand the irony of responding to the perceived political correctness of the left with exasperated reactionary hypersensitivity of your own?
Well, I think the difference is we're not trying to tell you what you can and can't say or what you can and can't do. We're just making fun of you for being a bunch of fucking morons. You know what? There's a lot being asked in these questions, and there's a lot of them being asked. So let's get some other shitlords and answer them too.
How do you define right-wing?
I define right-wing as whatever Google tells me it is.
Anti-SJWs often have an aversion to being labelled as right-wing, yet they regularly defend the right and bash the left. Therefore, why is being labelled right-wing a bad thing to you? And if it's because right-wing is used as a pejorative, can you not see how labelling people as SJWs or regressives is also pejorative?
Being labelled right-wing isn't bad for me, but it is for those that are left, that bash the left, that are far too far left, and they give those of the left that are a bit more sane a bad name. And this applies to anyone on any side of any political spectrum. Everyone should be mocked for something.
Rather than telling people you disagree with to drink bleach, wouldn't it be more productive for you to have an actual conversation about the issues you feel matter? Or is it just easier to do the bleach thing?
Okay, let me just be perfectly clear. When it comes to people who have gone full SJW, it is absolutely easier to drink a bottle of bleach than it is to hold a conversation with these people. And I'm not exaggerating. I'm not being hyperbolic or whatever you want to call it. It's the absolute truth. With people like you who have gone full SJW, you've gone beyond the point of reason, and there's no conversation. All you can do is just agree with you that I am all the things that you think I am. You know what? Piss off.
You claim to be proponents of rational, logical, evidence-based argumentation. That's great. That's entirely laudable. But when I look at your online activity, when I look at, I don't know, for example, your Twitter feed, that's often not what I see. How do you reconcile this claim to be evidence-based and rational and logical against stuff like, oh, I was just trolling you, oh, I was just shitposting, or TLDR?
When we say just trolling, it's exactly that, because we are. On Twitter, I know I'm a professional troll. I love doing that. I love going after fat acceptance people because I'm a fat dude, and I almost got sucked into that crap movement. And they want to say that there's health at every size, and body positivity, and all this lovey-dovey stuff, when that's just false. They want to say that doctors are wrong for saying that weight has to do with sleep apnea. I have sleep apnea. Completely wrong. So I troll the heck out of these people because it's enjoyable. I love triggering people. And then with the TLDR, if you are getting sent papers that are 30, 40, 50, 60 pages long, and they are using these articles to get you to read and prove their own point, you're not going to want to read that. I've sent people stuff that were simply just a couple tweets, about 3 or 4 tweets, and they've shrugged it off and said TLDR, even though it wasn't too long. And these were feminists that did that. So people on your side do the exact same thing to us. It's not just us doing it to you. So when we do it, it's when you send us An article that just echoes what you already say. And it's a feminist source. And it's 30, 40, 50, 60 pages, like I said. You want us to read that and sift through all of this crap. We're not going to do that. I'm a lazy son of a gun, and I know that it's a waste of my time. Are you kidding me? Not gonna happen.
Are you aware that the ridiculous buzzwords you helped to popularize, like SJW and cuck and regressive, have all lost whatever meaning they once had and only serve now as casual insults and pejoratives to derail any meaningful conversation?
I don't think you're one to talk about meaningful conversation, Michael, considering you have me blocked on Twitter. Oh, I know. You weren't thinking about me when you recorded this, but if you have me blocked, who else do you have blocked? And the words we use are words we choose to use, the same way you choose to call us racist, sexist, homophobic, whatever. It's the same thing. Those have lost all meaning too. The difference is when you call us racist, you're lying. When we call you an SJW or a regressive or a cuck, it's true.
Moving on, not all of us condone violence, and not all of you condone violence, and not all of you condone peace. Remember her? Guess what? She assaulted people who she thought were white supremacists.
In videos and in the comment sections, anti-feminists often take up the most extreme or the weakest feminist position they can find, or they just straight up misrepresent what the feminist position is. Instead, why not take up the strongest, most robust feminist argument you can find and really challenge yourself?
There's a lot to say about this. First off, the feminist position is a fucking nebulous term there, seeing as you literally have feminists who are considered by their peers to be feminists, but hold completely counter, yet somehow both completely feminist positions. The fact that SWERFs, sex worker exclusionary radical feminists, and TERFs, trans exclusionary radical feminists, exist at the same time as those who work for the rights of women to make whatever choices they want with their bodies, and those who support the LGBT plus community, well, this suggests that your claim of a feminist position on fucking anything is ropey at best and fucking retarded at most likely. Secondly, I personally don't look for weak arguments. I take those that are presented to me, and those arguments that I would consider strong I probably wouldn't have a problem with. Why would I fight arguments that I think, that makes sense? Well, might as well be a contrarian, 'cause that's all I do. My opinions are whatever the opposite to what you say. No, dumbass. I'm going to go after the arguments that are both popular and fucking stupid. So should you.
I am deeply concerned with male addiction rates, suicide rates, and abuse rates, because I have worked with these issues in the quote-unquote real world. Would you be willing as anti-feminists to put aside your differences with feminists for the greater good of addressing these issues, especially as the kind of solutions needed are not necessarily gendered? And if so, I would actually like you to let me know, because I'm not fucking around or presenting any gotchas here. I actually really think that we could get something done if we work together. So yeah.
See, I would absolutely love to help a feminist work on these issues that you're talking about, but every single time I try to help them, they will not let me help unless we do it in their way. See, feminists and SJWs always go for the more radical and extreme ways of solving issues, for example, affirmative action. And whenever I tell them that I disagree with their methods, they tell me to go fuck myself. And if you're so concerned with things like male suicide rates, then why don't you tell people in your circles to stop telling men that they are never victims of anything? How about you spread awareness about things like the fact that men are more likely to be attacked in the street than women, and stop perpetuating this idea that every time a woman walks out in the dark, she is probably going to get raped? How about you stop perpetuating this idea that men are all potential rapists and they're all just predators waiting to unleash their inner sexual demons? How about you stop perpetuating this idea that women are completely unequal in this society when we have things like the fact that men are more likely to go to prison and spend more time in prison than women, the fact that men are more likely to die at work than women, the fact that men are more likely to commit suicide than women, and stop trying to argue against that by saying, well, women are more likely to attempt it. You know, white straight men are not always terrible. I know some white straight men who have been through the most abhorrent and disgusting things in their lives. And the fact that people in your circle try to perpetuate this idea that white straight men are just the devil is fucking ludicrous. Some of the people saying this stuff are the most privileged people I've ever fucking seen. Lacey Green, Cat Black, fucking even Onision. They're all really privileged people perpetuating this idea that, oh, they're all victims because we're not straight or we're not white or we're not... Sorry, I have no idea what that was. I'm sorry.
What is third wave feminism? Because I've often heard you folks insist that you have no objection to feminism in general. It's specifically third wave feminism that you have a quarrel with. So what is third wave feminism specifically? And what specifically about third wave feminism do you have such a problem with?
Why do you have me blocked on Twitter when I've only recently found out about you? I've never tweeted at you, so what's your fucking problem? If you aren't prepared to converse with me on social media, then I'm not going to answer your question.
You do understand that reading the title of a book or an article or watching the first 15 seconds of a video is not going to give you a deep, nuanced understanding of what that book or article or video is about, right? That being said, how can you expect to understand or critique feminist sources if you don't even attempt to understand what they're trying to say?
I think we understand good and well what they're trying to say, and if we go past page 1 of Google, that's when we start finding the feminist sources. While I know your narrative enjoys the 1 in 3 and the rape culture and the wage gap, I like the DOJ statistics better.
Why is trying and failing to debunk a study into sexual assault the #1 priority for a rational thinker now? Does it maybe say something about your priorities? Nah, it's fine, it's the feminazis, we have to stop them. They're taking away our video games.
I don't know what you're talking about, Boris Johnson, but again, your attempts at humour are pathetic.
One of the major arguments that I see in many of your videos is that it is possible to separate criticism of the religion of Islam from the actual Muslim people. And yet, this line seems to be crossed very often. I see things like raghead or camel fucker or other things like that in your comment sections. I see people taking very serious shots at Muslims in videos and hangouts, and they don't get called out. At least not that I can see. So my question is this: why should a person of conscience who is concerned about the Muslim people and their community not being harmed or mistreated, why should they believe that you're actually only attempting to look at the ideas and talk about the ideas if you ignore bigotry that's occurring right in front of you? And in that light, would you be willing to break bread and salt with moderate Muslim people on your videos, have hangouts, invite them to your channels, just in order to build some bridges there and to learn more about what they think and how they feel and what their experience has been, so that information and knowledge can be furthered?
First off, facts do not care about yours or my feelings for that matter. Second, I am not a babysitter, nor am I a language policer. And thirdly, racial slurs and horrible comments. Give me a break. Seriously, if your gripe with ribald internet candor is your one argument you have to bring to anyone's table, my personal suggestion would be to either bring it to the offender's attention, simply move on with your day, or stay off the internet entirely. Now, I can only speak for myself here, but I can honestly say that I don't mean to racially demean anyone. But I find it slightly disingenuous for you to completely conflate the lion's share of thorough and honest content creators who have legitimate criticism and concern for Islam with that of some dumb internet trolls. If one can slog and weed through the bullshit and find some good learned diatribes on and of the ills of the Muslim world, then one should see that the work is already half done for you. And as for bread and salt, well, no pun intended, has always been on the table for discussion.
Do you deny that systemic racism against black people is like a thing in general? If so, what? Okay, just step up. Just cover your ears for a second and let the smart people talk.
What a condescending cunt.
If not, why is it so much more important to you to demonize groups like Black Lives Matter than to actually use your platforms to discuss actual solutions to issues surrounding race and racism?
Okay, this is the thing. Black Lives Matter present false statistics and false information. That's why we like to, argue against them and tell them that they're wrong. Now, we don't necessarily demonize them. They do a pretty good job of doing that themselves.
Blanket, fry like bacon, pigs in a blanket, fry like bacon, pigs in a blanket, fry like bacon.
To kill a white baby. The less white babies on this planet, the less of you we got, boo.
The blood is on
I hope they kill all the white babies. Kill them all right now. Kill them. Kill your grandkids. Kill yourself.
Why do white people have a right to affirm their life?
Because all lives have value.
Really? How? How so? Why does white life have value?
Well, I think my
for
life
who?
has
White? No, excuse me. For who? Our argument is that white life is wrong.
Why?
Our argument is that we should never affirm white life. That your argument of just affirming all life in general is not good. Especially not good for black people when white life itself is based off of black supremacy.
If you've ever discussed or done a video about black-on-black crime, when are you going to do a video about white-on-white crime and what we, as white people, can do to solve the problems in our community?
Why the fuck would I do that? Is there a large, popular group of white people going around blaming the police and, quote, systemic racism against them for something that any rational human being might just understand is more nuanced than just, all cops hate us? You see, fuckwit, the reason people are talking about black-on-black crime, it's fucking relevant to the conversation we are having. If you think that a higher rate of violent crime per capita between a group isn't going to lead to more violent confrontations with police, then you are what we in the industry call an unbelievable fucking cretin. I mean, seriously, how do you even dress yourself?
Why is a literal teenager's different definition of racism from you so horrifying that you all have to go, no! No, we have to stop him! We've got to debunk him now! Ah!
Let's just say that when someone like this comes along who has absurd ideas that they are getting from other people who are higher up in the community, it makes no difference. We refute all of them. Anybody who's spreading these asinine, ridiculous ideas, we will confront. We will challenge them. We will come after them because they need to be dealt with. They need to be discussed openly and honestly. Not this deceptiveness, not this... You know what? This guy's such a fucking douchebag. I can't believe you gave me this clip. You know what, Sinatra? You're a dick. Why'd you give me this asshole? Of all the fucking clips, you gave me this douche. Like, fuck. I love you anyway, buddy.
Wherever did you get the idea that racism was a self-applied identity?
Oh, Steve Shives, you are really special. You are not born racist. The colour of your skin does not immediately identify you as racist. Racism is a learned thing. It is not something you are born with.
And if the only true racists are the racists who self-identify as racists, how can we ever expect to make any social progress to reduce racism? Or did I just answer my own question?
Now, if those that identify as racist are the only people that are racist, then the only social progress that needs to be made is to have those people no longer identify as racist, but they're free to choose if they want to be racist. It's how we choose to react to that that really matters. Unless, of course, you're about to tell me that all people of a particular race in any demographic of the world is racist and born racist, 'cause racist. I look forward to the day where people stop using race as an identity. It is starting to do my head in.
You often say that you are for equality of opportunity, but if people of color, for instance, have to overcome barriers whites do not, such as discrimination and unequal treatment as are well documented in various studies, then how can the current situation be thought of as equal opportunity in any real way? And why do you consider it racist to
If the studies are so numerous, then why haven't you put them up
in this part of the video. I mean, you really could have avoided what I'm going to say next, and that's citation needed. As far as I'm aware, there's already equal opportunity, especially here in the States. We have affirmative action, we have the United Negro College Fund, we have tons of opportunities for people of color to go and seek out and be able to further and better themselves.
Isn't it offensive to men to assume that a man could only ever want equality for women, and therefore be comfortable with feminism as a whole in order to get laid, and that reduces us to beasts? If that was the case, wouldn't I attempt to get laid from my views instead of not ever trying that?
And it's one thing for male feminists to be for equality and then to just deliberately, oh baby, you can do anything a man can do. That's just not true. No, I think that's very fair to assume because that's what we call white knighting. Just like Joe Rogan said, even men can't do everything other men can do. So no, it's not.
What has the number of followers, the number of likes, the number of dislikes, the number of retweets, the number of subscribers, any of those numbers, any of those metrics, what have they got to do with the argument? Deepak Chopra, for example, a man who trots out an endless stream of pseudoscientific quantum woo bollocks, has nearly 3 million followers. So what? Those people follow him because he tells them what they want to hear. Why even mention the number of followers you have? What difference does it make?
The number of followers you have means shit to your argument. And who the hell said that you needed X number of followers to ride? Or to argue, for that matter. Seriously, they're dumb. You know what does matter? The amount of times I can cross the screen and move around. Whee!
Why is it that you go on and fucking on about safe spaces and trigger warnings and delicate little flowers, but continue to hide behind your cartoon avatars and your childish pseudonyms?
Are we sure that I'm the right one for this? I mean, there's plenty of reasons not to show your face. Like, I live in a country where the things I say might get me arrested. I might get fired from my job since you people like to try to get people fired from their jobs. Or I look like this. Not everybody can be as fucking hot as this guy right here. Or as hot as you think you are.
And whenever anyone calls you out on your sexist, racist, homophobic, bigoted rhetoric, you become the argument of your own scorn and are hashtag triggered, as they say.
So safe spaces for kids to avoid challenging their ideas at institutions that are designed to challenge kids' ideas, to you is the equivalent of taking general measures for your own personal well-being? And you think outrage over, like, a fair election is akin to being upset when someone calls you a racist, when someone lies about you and basically says you're a horrible person. So in order to not become the object of our own scorn, we have to just lie back and let you lie about us and defame us? I bet the academics are really happy to have you on board, bud. You're a good thinker.
Are you willing to publicly acknowledge and admonish the massive amount of hatred, bullying, harassment, and intimidation that a lot of your fans infringe upon people? And I don't mean these tiny disclaimers that you put under the description fold or flash for 2 seconds at the beginning of the video that you know nobody reads. I mean a public and ongoing anti-bullying stance. Or do you kind of like watching your fans go around harassing people and calling them slurs and telling them to kill themselves? You kind of like it, don't you? I mean, if that's your thing, and I guess that's just what you're into, just makes you a dick.
Assuming we have any control over the people who watch our videos is asinine at best. While we do take the time out to make and add these disclaimers to our videos, that should be evidence enough that we don't like this stuff happening. But then again, we're not the side to tell people they're not allowed to say certain things. I think any reasonable person would like their fans not to do that, but we can't stop them ourselves.
Why do you find it so hard to believe that feminists are being harassed online?
Personally, I don't find it hard to believe that anyone in any area of the world is being harassed online in some manner. It's of course the definition of the word harassment that matters here, since harassment can be anything. If I say hello to you in the wrong tone, it could be regarded as harassment by the ever so slightly more delicate individuals.
Do you understand the key importance of reproducibility and repeatability in scientific research? That simply going to Google Scholar, doing a 30-second search for keywords and pulling out the first paper you find that backs up your stance is not a particularly credible way to do research. That you have to have a much broader overview, to read the material, to follow the citations through, to look at the broad brush approach to a particular problem. You do realise that you're as much of a social justice warrior as those you critique. It's just that you espouse a different form of social justice, a rather less considerate, rather less forgiving, rather less kind form of social justice.
I gotta say, in the first part of this video, I found it difficult for anyone, including myself, to find any problem with that statement. Yes, a good critique of anything requires structured, evidence-based research with a keen focus on analyzing the architecture of a problem or set of problems with any particular subject in view. But the angle in which this message is coming from seems to be a bit ignorantly misguided. And it would seem I was right. Look, jargon aside, hashtag not all critical commentators within the YouTube community that criticize certain self-destructive tenets of cultural Marxism are trying to manufacture their own de facto alternative to social justice. Nor do I believe they're all doing what they do to espouse a competing worldview for kicks. I think there is a term for this misaligned argument presented here, but for the life of me, I can't quite put my finger on it just yet. Well, I suppose I can get back to this upon future request, or whenever a better inquiry for the matter at hand is provided.
If you identify as an egalitarian, then I'm interested in your take on the usefulness of the concept of the original position as laid out by John Rawls in his theory of justice.
I read a book. The problem I have with the original position is that it's built on a lot of assumptions that I don't think are accurate. The biggest one being that he ignores all natural human tendencies towards compassion for their fellow man. So we're basically wired to act only in our own self-interest and thus need a veil of ignorance in order to come up with the best principle of justice. And in the difference principle, he comes to the conclusion that we basically need government to mandate altruism for us. Biggest Mikey, I'm sorry, I'm gonna steal this from you because I got all the privilege.
A rather less considerate, rather less forgiving, rather less kind form of social justice.
Is it really more kind and compassionate and considerate to take away from people what they've earned to give it to people who didn't? How compassionate is it really to assume that we absolutely need government to do good for people because we, the people, will not do good for the people? You are presenting us a system that is not indirectly oppressive. It is actively and directly, as a function of its own nature, oppressive. And you think you're the compassionate ones.
How do you define right-wing? Anti-SJWs often have an aversion to being labeled as right-wing. Yet they regularly defend the right and bash the left. Therefore, why is being labeled right-wing a bad thing to you? And if it's because right-wing is used as a pejorative, can you not see how labeling people as SJWs or regressives is also pejorative?
It's like you don't fucking understand that right-wing is supposed to have a meaning. It's a position on the political spectrum. I can be left-wing and defend people on the right. I can be left-wing and quote-unquote bash the left, although it's actually called criticism, by the way. I can do this because my positions are still very much left-leaning. I hold few, if any, right-leaning positions, so calling me right-wing doesn't make any fucking sense. And the pejorative thing, right-wing is a description of a thing I am not, so again, using it is inaccurate. But calling you guys SJWs and regressives is accurate and insulting, so it works on so many beautiful levels. You aggressive mangina beta manlet cucklord faggot. See? Accurate and insulting. Bellissimo.
As a supporter, as a proponent of freedom of speech, why do you want to quash academic freedom? If you're not familiar with the concept of academic freedom, it's worth, in the UK at least, looking up the 1988 Education Reform Act and seeing what that says about the rights of academics to put across unpopular opinions.
Oh boy, this might be a long answer. Believing in freedom of speech doesn't mean that we get to shout down anybody else either. Believing in freedom of speech means a free exchange of ideas for critical thinking of the bad ones and then acceptance of the better ones. As far as freedom of speech in academia, we're not the ones no platforming speakers or getting professors in trouble for their dangerous views, as you would put it. But there is a difference between quote-unquote dangerous ideas and incorrect ideas, which seems to be the narrative for the most part that feminists and most SJWs push, which are false facts. Then again, that comes right back around to let bad ideas be criticized in public, and you can't call it hate speech. Free speech just needs to win. Always. Dear SJWs, I gathered this nice little coalition of shitlords to answer your reasonable questions. I hope you found these answers to be to your satisfaction, and if not, I'm going to link everybody's channel and Twitter in the description. Feel free to reach out to any of us.
You're still here? It's over. Go home.